episode here on Britain's Farm. So as you can see, we're out in the Massey Ferguson today, ploughing one of Richard's fields. We've done quite a bit in this field already, but still got a way to go. Yeah, so we're just a mosey on through with the new plough. Yeah, we've got a bigger plough. We're getting more and more land as we go through the save, so it's. I thought it was probably time to get a new plough. It's a little bit different to the 5 furrow plough that I had, and it was funny enough that was another CQ model that I had. The CQ plough. I don't know if you can remember the really old 5 furrow plough, because later on they bought a 5 furrow Lemkin out, the very first plough they brought out was a red one, and I had it as the Cavervelin plough. And I realise this isn't the Cavervelin plough either, but this tractor can't pull the Cavervelin plough that we've got in the game, so I had to go with this one. Yeah, so it had the 2 wheels at the back, and then it had 2 wheels at the back, and then on like a little frame. And then it was obviously reversible, but I say just the sort of 2 wheels at the back that were just. To be fair, it was brilliantly designed, because the 2 wheels at the back just held the furrows high enough off the carpet for you to be able to sort of push it along the floor, but so the actual furrows themselves didn't get caught in the carpet, in the thread. So it was, you were able to play with it, and it kind of looked like it was on the ground, but close up you could tell there was a small gap, but it was just enough. And also as well, I think it always helped that Mum never used to have really high piled carpets. The only high piled carpet that we did have was in her and Dad's room, and that one was so plush and so soft that pretty much any plough would just go through it without bringing up threads and without bringing up getting stuck in it. So that was ideal for plough. And also as well, it used to stripe because of how plush the pile was. It used to stripe beautifully with the plough. Honestly, it was a fabulous carpet. It was a real sort of dull pinky sort of colour. But yeah, it was a really nice carpet to play my toys on. Eventually, when Mum and Dad got rid of the carpet, it all kind of the Mum and Dad got rid of the carpet, but what happened afterwards was not really because of the carpet issue. It was because that was the way things developed. So in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was at home, and I was in the living room, and I was playing with my tractors. I know, I was, in my sort of late teens, coming into my early 20s, late teens, in the late 90s, and I was playing in the living room with my tractors, and no one was home, so I was sort of, it was just me, and I was sort of playing in the living room with my tractors, and my nan came round, and she came in, and sort of obviously saw what I was doing, and she said to me, she goes, "Coy, your mum's not going to like that when she gets home," because my mum was at work. And I said, "No," I said, "I have to make sure I'm all packed up and cleared away before she gets back, otherwise I'll never hear the bloody end of it." And my nan said, "Well, why don't you bring your farm down to mine?" She said, there's 3 rooms upstairs that you can have, for your farm and for your field layouts and everything. And I couldn't really give a monkeys, as long as you don't leave them out downstairs. She said, like, if you're playing them downstairs at mine, as long as you clear them up when you're done, but like upstairs, you can just leave them in 3 rooms. You can just leave them, you know, as you do, sort of thing. You know, she said, like, it doesn't make no difference. I never go into those rooms, and you know, it's no bother. And as I say, it was about that same time that, well, Mum and Dad had just got rid of the carpet upstairs in their room, and I don't know, it just seemed like the natural progression, and so I moved all of my toys over to my nan's, and she lived on her own, and of course the sort of double good thing that came from doing that was that my nan had company through the day, because it was a period of time when I wasn't working. I was going through 1 or 2 heart issues again, and so I wasn't working at the time. Um, and as I say, she had company in the day, and I had somewhere where I could freely play with my tractors and not have to worry about it. And the other good thing about, of course, spending lots of time with Nan was, you know, all right, hands up, I'm a little bit guilty here, but I used to go, cool, I'd really like that model, but I can't really afford it. And then I go, oh, go on, I'll get you it. So, you know, so hands up, a little bit guilty, but I didn't do it all the time. But if there was just something I was desperate for then and there, then it would be a case of just sort of drop it into subtle conversation. And Nan, God bless her, dearly missed. She would she'd go, "Oh, go on then," and yeah, it just started from there. Started building like sheds and layouts and dioramas and different things like that. I had a friend from, well, I say a friend, it turned out he wasn't a friend, but at the time I considered him a friend. A fella called Paul from Pinchbeck, and he built all of my grain stores for me and some machinery sheds and different, you know, sort of farmhouse and sort of stuff like that. He built all that for me because I'm not very good at DIY and that sort of stuff. But we were to later fall out because he converted models, and because I'd now got sort of one of my nan's bedrooms dedicated to the farm, with all the cow pastures and the dairies from brushwood and, you know, all of that business. The other two were obviously used as fields. Now each room was used as multiple fields, but a note was made of every you know, crop that we planted and what have you, and different things. And the way I used to work it was so as I just didn't go out buying tractors, like, because that's all I would have done. So what I used to do was I would, when I was harvesting or anything like that, so I would then, with my trailers, I would have either birdseed or, you know, peas or something like that, and then each end of the room I would have a box of the seeds, or the peas or whatever I was using, and then I would just fill the trailers up with one handful at a time, and then if we'd had a wet real life sort of year, then it would perhaps only be it would be a smaller handful. Then if, like, so I would go to the local farm and say, you know, how are the yields looking this year, and they'd say, you know, yeah, yields are, you know, whatever, say 3 ton or whatever. So then it'd be quite a big handful of seeds that I would then put in. And then what I used to do was for every trailer I used to get 1.5 pence when I sold my my harvest. So when I sold like a trailer full of grain out of the grain store, I used to get 1.5 pence, and then I used to count all that up and then see how much I got. And usually at the end of each year, I'd usually have about sort of 50-60 pound. You know, it sort of wasn't much, but it was not bad, you know, and that's how I used to do it. And then because I continued to farm sort of mums as well, so I used to, because mum and nan, they only, I mean, I could walk it in 10 minutes, and I'm not, obviously, with given everything that's wrong, I'm not a fantastically quick walker. You know, I have to take my time and that. But as I can walk there in 10 minutes. You know, I used to be able to, when I was a kid, I used to be able to cycle it in, was it 3 minutes or something? I used to be really fast on a bike once upon a time. I mean, now I can't even ride a bike. I sort of pedal for 2 minutes and I'm so out of breath with chest pains and dizziness and blurry eyes and everything else that it's just not worth the effort. But yeah, that's what I used to do, and it was a really, I don't know, it was a good time of my life, you know. Sort of, I was going through sort of quite a lot of operations and quite a lot of procedures and stuff like that, and it was a nice break from all of that, you know, just to play with the toys. And then in 2009, I had started work on the first farm by that point. I started there in the autumn of 2006. So what happened was I was working at Tesco's, funnily enough, in Holbeach at the time. And for those of you that are not from around where I live, it's a small town about 7.5 miles away from the tiny little village that I live in. The tiny little village that I live in, you know, no shops. You know, there's a pub, just about a pub. I think it's just about holding on. A village shop, a garage, and a post office. And the post office is now in the shop, so that you know. But before, a few years ago, it was an independent. But yeah, so I worked, as I say, if you wanted a job, apart from farming, but if you wanted a job, certainly in retail, you had to go to the bigger towns, and to say 7 miles one way is Holbeach, 7 miles the other way is Wisbech, and then about 14 miles further on, well, another 7 miles on, so 14 miles away was the town of Spalding. And you know, Holbeach and Spalding were your best chances of getting a job, you know, mainly factory or retail. Spalding factory, Holbeach sort of purely retail, but Spalding you could sort of get a job at either, really. There's quite a lot of factories in Spalding, and obviously a lot of shops because there's a shopping centre and that there as well. And yeah, so I worked at Holbeach at the time, and I was sat on my till one day, and not so much now, but back then I was a really outgoing, really friendly. I'm still friendly, but I would talk to anybody, whereas now I'm a lot more reserved and a lot more cautious. One or two little things have happened, um, you know, over the last few years has just made me a little bit more cautious towards talking to, you know, just sort of randomly talking to strangers. But at the time, I was working on the checkout as well, because, you know, obviously it was a job that I could do. I was working on the checkout, and of course you got to talk to lots of people, and I got to know quite a few farmers from sort of the surrounding sort of Holbeach area and what have you. And I was sort of saying to them, you know, I'd love to work on a farm, but you know, because I haven't got no experience, no farm wants to sort of take me on and give me the experience, and I didn't go to college, and you know, and all the farmers around there were like, yeah, we wouldn't take you on, like, you know. And it was kind of the same old story. And then sort of midsummer, about sort of July, August time. Actually, we need to go a bit further because that's gone a bit further down there. Sorry, just talking to myself. So yeah, about July, sort of August time, I was talking to a lovely lady, Brenda. Her and her husband were um, farmers in Sutton Bridge, and I was talking to her, and she said, you know, we take you on, but it's me, my husband, and my two boys, and to be fair, it's enough. I'm sort of only work. I only work, you know, sort of when we're busy. otherwise I'm in the office and I'm, sort of whatever. But in harvest time, with like the grain, the wheats and potatoes and sugar beet, then I drive a cart. She said, but otherwise, I'm in the office. And she'd like, my husband and my two boys, sort of look after the farm. She said, but otherwise we'd give you a job. She said, but I tell you what we can do. She said, we can start to give you experience, because you can come on a Saturday or whatever, and you can do a food job for us. So I said, oh, that would be amazing. Like, I said, but then I'll work Saturdays. And she said, well, okay. She said, what about Sunday? So I said, well, yeah. I said, I'm not contracted to work Sunday, but I do overtime. I said, but I'd be willing, willing to come to the farm. I said, and and she said, well, we're not paying you. So I said, because we're just building your experience. Because she had, not being nasty, but she had, someone's got to sit with you. She had, we haven't really got the time to be sitting with, but she had like, that's what needs to be done. So anyway, we sort of agreed that we were probably going to do that. The following week she came in, she said, I've had an idea. So I said, what's that? She goes, why don't you hire your own tractor and plough and go around local farms and see if anyone will let you. You won't get on yet, because you need the harvest to be done, but go on to local farms and just say, look, if I supply my own tractor and my own plough, if you'd be willing to supply the diesel, I don't want no wages or no paying, but I would like to just sort of plough and learn to plough, and I'll be willing to do it for free just for a bit of diesel, and the hire of the tractor and everything will be at my expense. And I sort of said to her, I said, Jesus, I can't afford to hire a tractor. And she goes, oh, it's not as expensive as what people think. So I was like, okay, fair enough. Well, as luck would have it, I was really friendly with my local John Deere dealer. I used to get near enough 100% of all my models from there, because pretty much every tractor and combine by the early 2000s coming into the mid 2000s was John Deere. Everything I had was John Deere, apart from the implements. But even the John Deere implements, if they did them, I had them, and they were in 1/32 scale, or 1/64 scale. But but as I say, all my tractors and my combines and my forage harvesters and everything was John Deere. And so I'd sort of got to know them very well, and I knew Graham, who owned the dealership, or the franchise. But he owned the dealership, but obviously they had the John Deere franchise, and they were allowed to sell John Deere equipment. And I knew him reasonably well. He knew my uncle, who worked for Worth, so it's kind of like, So I went and see him, and I just said, like, I'm desperate to work on a farm. I said, no one will take me on because I haven't got no experience. And he said, right. So, and they had a farm as well. So he said, well, we're not hiring. So I said, no, I'm not asking that. I said, would you be willing to let me hire a tractor and a plough if I can find a farm that will let me go on there? So he was like, kind of. And I said, but first I need to know how much it is to know whether or not I can afford it. So he sort of said, well, it's going to be roughly, I'm sure he said something like £600-700. And he said, and to be fair, he said, that's where I'm helping you out. He said, because it would be a lot more than that normally. He said, but I'm only going to give you a small tractor, and I'm only going to give you a small plough. So he said, we'll say, I think it was either £600-700. I can't remember, and it was a lot of money. That was to me. I was only part time at Tesco's. I was only working 13 hours a week, and I couldn't afford it. And so I just said, like, well, I can't afford it. So thanks very much for sort of considering it, but I'll have to pass it up. Anyway, another sort of few weeks pass, and harvest has come along, and I went into double days again to have a look at the models and different things. And Graham was in the shop, and he said, I've been waiting for you to come in. He said, come with me. So I sort of went off with him into his office. He said, right. He said, I've been thinking about what you said. He said, and I like the fact that you're trying to use your initiative, and you're trying to help yourself, and you're trying to do the right thing. He said, so if you can find a farm, I'll provide you with a tractor and a plough. So I was like, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, the only thing you'll need the farm to provide you with is diesel. He said, but we will provide the tractor and the plough. He said, we will give you a full day's training on the tractor, all free. He said, like, we'll do that. So he said, like, if you can find somewhere. So I was like, okay. So the first farm that I tried was a very small farm, and I went to them, and they said, like, again, I knew the people, John and I can't remember the name of his brother, but they were two brothers, and John North, and as I say, I can't remember the name of his brother, and they said, like, we don't hire people because it means we would have to conform to health and safety and insurances and stuff like that. Well, we don't farm like that, so no, if we did, we'd take you on and we'd let you do it, but no. So I was like, okay. And then the second farm that I went to was a farm where my nan worked, as I don't really know what my nan she worked in the house, and she basically just did whatever around the house. So I think it was more a case of that the farmer's wife just kind of enjoyed having the company during the day, and I think they used to drink a lot of coffee and chat a lot. So I thought, well, I'll go there. I'll ask them. So anyway, I went to see Anthony, the sort of son of the farm, and I'd sort of explained, and he said, well, to be fair, it's not the sort of thing really that we do. So I was thinking, oh, here we go, do you know what I mean? Like, so he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, I'll have a word with Dad. If Dad agrees, then I'll give you a ring, or I'll tell your nan, and we'll sort it out from there. So I said, no, don't tell my nan. I said, like, don't tell my nan. I said, just give us a ring or come and pop up and see it, because we all lived within a mile of each. Like, my parents' house where I was living at the time was, probably about, I'd say we were all within a mile radius. And so I said, like, just either pop up or whatever. And he said, okay. He said, fair enough. He said, I'm always going by yours anyway. He said, like, taking the kids to school, etc. What have you. So I was like, yeah, fair enough. So sort of kind of didn't expect anything to come from it. Anyway, later that day, his dad pulled into the driveway, and he said to me, he said, oh, apparently you approached Anthony with a proposition. So I said, well, I've been given the hire of a tractor and a plough. I said, and I'm basically looking to go onto a farm, obviously to do some ploughing. I said, but A, to learn, I said, and B, to gain a little bit of experience, and then that way I might be lucky enough to one day get a job on a farm. At least I can say I've had a bit of experience, you see. So he said, okay. He said, well, I quite like your forethought and I quite like your initiative. So I said, right. He said, I'll tell you what we'll do. So I said, yeah. He said, in September you can come for 2 weeks. He said, and you could do our ploughing for us. He said, ploughing. He said, the amount of ploughing that we have should take you about 2.5 weeks. So I was, okay, fair enough. So I was like, well, and I didn't turn it down. That was the thing. And I thought, well, sometimes in life you're going to have to take a gamble, because there's no way on earth would Tesco's give me 2 weeks holiday. So I had to do, the friendliest thing possible. Took a week's holiday and then had the second week off sick. Had no choice. And then I went to Doubledays, kind of like, they want me for 2 weeks? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about that. That's fine. It's no problem. So I was like, oh, thank God for that. So went to the farm anyway, did ploughing, and got to the last day on, which was a Sunday. And then the tractor was due to go back Monday, and I was due to go back to work on the Monday as well, like back at Tesco's. And it got to the Sunday, and both the farmer and his son came down to where I was ploughing, and and said, like, how you got on, and I said, yeah. And because the other thing they did as well, which was really, really kind of them, was they sent someone down with drones and video cameras and whatever else, and filmed me for probably a good 3 or 4 hours ploughing fields and different fields and what have you, and and gave me the video. I had it made into a video and gave me the video and said, something to remember it by, which was a really nice sort of touch. Really, I sort of didn't expect that, and because they provided the diesel every day, and I did have 1 or 2 little breakdowns. I had a puncture and what have you in the plough, and a few points sheared, and a few shear bolts went as well. But they, repaired it all. They, never made, a fuss or anything. They just repaired it and basically kept me going, like, and sort of helped me. The workers that worked there, there was 3 of them at the time, 2 full-time and 1 part-time, just in the summer, and they were quite helpful as well. 2 were a bit offish with me, because all I kept getting was, "You're taking our work offers," and but the other one was fine with me, and that's how on the Sunday they came along, gave me the video and what have you, and then Anthony said, "So farming something that you'd really like to do?" So I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, we've been really impressed at how quickly you've picked up ploughing." He said, "I realise it's not the most difficult job on the farm," he said, "but to drive a tractor as straight as what you do, there's not many people that can do that." So I said, "Right." He said, "And we've been told this week by Jim," and that was one of the workers there, "that he's actually retiring at the end of next year, or at the end of harvest next year." So I said, "Right." So he said, "Obviously we're going to need to replace him." So I said, "Yeah." So he said, "Would maybe you like to come and replace?" He said, "Throughout, between now and next year, when we're busy, you come when we ask, no problems, and you work for us and you work hard and you do whatever." He said, "And maybe by then we can have you trained up so that you're just ready to take his job." So I was like, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, definitely, absolutely." And so for the next year, that's what I did. For the next year, as I say, that's what I did, and then on August the 13th the following year, I started, and for the next, that was 2006. So for the next 10 years, well, just over 10 years, I never looked back. I had 5 years at that farm, and then I had just a little bit over. I had about 5.5 years then at the big farm that I worked on, which is the one that I refer to quite a lot. The one where I got to the other week to go and, or I bet it's over a month ago now, but to drive my Challenger one last time. So yeah, it was, but that's how my farming career sort of started. It basically started with a conversation in Tesco's and an escalation through just talking to other people. And back then, I had the confidence and as we say, sort of where I'm from, the minerals to go round and ask these people. I don't think I'd do it now. I think now I'm too withdrawn and too sort of shy. The one thing I found that since I've had to give up work is that as I say, I'm nowhere near as what can I say, outgoing as what I used to be. As I say, the big farm that I worked on, there was 1 or 2 people there that, for whatever reason, well, I do know the reason why one of them didn't like me, because he had no problems in telling me. So he basically wanted the job as ploughman. Again, I replaced someone that was retiring, and he wanted that job. He wanted the job of ploughman, and that the bloke who was retiring, Jack, I think his name was. And bearing in mind he was like sort of 77 or 78 or something, but he was finally packing in because his wife had sort of become a little unwell, and they wanted to sort of really enjoy obviously the last however long it was they had together sort of thing, and because Peter thought, oh, I'm going to take over. I want that job. Just sat on my backside all day ploughing. You can't beat it. You get left alone. Blah blah blah. Because at the time he was in the potato store, and that was just full on pressure all the time. Like, cause I did a few days in there, and they made him manager of that, and then obviously hired me to take on the ploughing. Well, he was not nice, and he hated me. There's no sort of two ways to kind of put it, and then because of my heart condition and that, I tend not to be very confrontational because I'm always frightened that if someone was to hit me in the wrong place or whatever, that'd be lights out, and the end of the end game. So I tend not to sort of be very confrontational, and if people start to get a bit, sort of what can I say, unpleasant towards me, I tend to walk away. And sometimes I don't want to, but my own sort of intelligence tells me that's the best thing to do, and that's what I do. But yeah, he didn't like me, and he was like, we shouldn't have someone on here. What happens if you die and crash one of our tractors? And I said, well, what happens if you die and crash one of the forklifts? We're all going to die at some point. None of us know when it is. And I said, and to be fair, the fact that my heart is checked at a minimum of once every year by the best heart specialist in this country, and yours isn't, what are the chances of you having a heart attack compared to me having a heart attack and dying on the machinery? I said, I would say you're way more at risk than what I am. I said, so before you go around casting your aspersions, I said, you want to look at yourself and worry about yourself. And that was about as brave as I got in 5.5 years. Because then it was a case of like, then sort of going, the other lads on there were like, oh, he reckons he's gonna, you say one more thing, he's gonna deck you, he's gonna do this, that, and everything else. And looking back now, I wish I had have kept sort of sticking up for myself with him, because obviously he would have got sacked. But it's not, and he still works there now. But even when I left, they didn't give him the job. They gave it to Kerry. So he still didn't get his job that he wanted. But and the thing is, and Adrian used to say this to me. The reason he didn't get the job is A, he isn't that good of a tractor driver, and B, because you go out and do quite a bit of contracting for us, we need someone that we know is going to go somewhere and be the face of our company and be the face of our, sort of farm and everything, be really friendly, be really approachable, and he isn't. He said, and at the end of the day, we're not going to put him at the front of our company when, you go out on contract. Like he said, well, like when you do the peas, because a few times I did pea harvests, tended to do more the night ones than the day shifts. I tended to usually just work nights because it was harder for them to get people to work nights than obviously it was in the day. But I love the night team. The night team, we got paid a hell of a lot more money than the day team. But it was, you needed to be really highly skilled because, you're driving sort of, I know the machinery's got lights and everything, and don't get me wrong, today's lights make it daylight at night, do you know what I mean? But it was still, for me, you still needed more skill in the nighttime than you did doing it in the daytime when you could see everything, and with the lights you could only see where the lights would reach. Beyond that you couldn't see anything, and so I enjoyed that, and as I say, I used to go off and do quite a bit of contract ploughing or contract drilling. I used to do quite a bit of contract drilling. I used to use the Simba for that one, our floater drill. But yeah, so that's sort of what I used to do really. But yeah, he wasn't happy. But as I say, then I left, and I kind of assumed that he would get my tractor, and I did apologise to my tractor before I left. It was like, I'm really sorry, you're probably going to get Pete. And then sort of the last 2 days I think I was working there. It was, I think it was September, October, when my my major trouble sort of kind of started, when things started to go quite a bit more wrong than normal. And that day, as I say, for about 2 weeks before I left, Adrian came to me and said, "Oh look, I've done one bloody row too many now." Um, yeah, I left as when I announced I was leaving, and he came to me and said, "We want you to train Kerry uh, for the job, for your job. Sort of teach her the ropes, the computers and the tractors, blah blah blah, GPS, all that business." And that's what I did. And as I say, she took over, and she does a very good job. Funnily enough, over the weekend, me and my little boy was out in the car, and we are. Went sort of all round, because he's kind of interested where Dad used to work and what have you, and we went round the fields where I used to work, and he likes sort of going to see them and what have you, and Kerry was in one of them ploughing, so she very kindly gave him a ride, which made his whole weekend, I think, which was really nice of her, because I was going to get on as well, and he went, "No, Dad, I want to go on my own." So, okay, and then on the way back, when they were coming back, she was letting Thomas steer the tractor, and as I say, he's had a really rough time of it the last sort of few weeks, and we're not out the sort of woods with him yet really, but she made his day, you know and because that was all he went on about then, to Nan and to anyone that would listen, basically, was, he drove a Challenger. Well, it's a Vent now because it's not my Challenger anymore, but which for me, I mean, I'm like, very grateful for what Kerry did for him. I just wish it could have been on my Challenger. That somehow that would have been the icing on the cake for me, because but for him it was irrelevant. He just got to ride on a Challenger or on a Vent, and he got to ride on one, and then he got to steer it. But as far as he was concerned, because he had his hand on the joystick as well, he was driving, and it's once or twice the sort of the Vent buried its nose into the ground because he was pushing the joystick. He was pulling it back, and it was sort of slowing it down, and then yeah, and she said he's a bit keen. I said yeah, but no, it was really nice for him and nice for me, and it was really really nice of Kerry to do that for him. So Kerry, if you watch these videos, thanks very much. I know a young lad that you will forever ever be his hero, and probably Thomas's as well. But yeah, so that was really good of her. But yeah, so it's a night. Well, we need to come back and do the 2 little bits of headland there. So I've been ploughing, as you can see, this field freehand. Been sort of like, it's not quite as easy to do on Farming Sim as it is on in real life, but we've sort of been making a job of it. We've been making a job. We definitely won't drive over the ploughing like this, but it's okay. All right, what we'll do is we'll plough it from the verge out. plough across here. We'll plough that up a little bit, but it's like I tend to try and leave those these areas around these telegraph poles fairly wide, because you can't get in with the sprayer. It's sort of tricky to get in with the drills and the other implements. You might as well leave it as wide as possible, but we will just plough that off across there, because that will just square that off a little bit. But as I say, over there you can see where I've sort of left it still as wide as possible, but yeah, that's the reason why we do it. But yeah, so but one of the points that I was going to make before I started talking about sort of real life was that I was, obviously playing with my tractors and that, and I played with them up until really I sort of started working on a farm, mainly because I just didn't get the time. But when I did get the time, I would still play on them, or play with them. But the time when I stopped playing with my toys and or my tractors and my models, and they became just a collection rather than something that I was, sort of physically using, was when Farming Sim 2009 came out. I didn't know that Farming Sim existed in 2008 when the first game came out, and that was back when a new game would drop every year. Although, funnily enough, 2009 was the year that the last year that happened, as far as I can tell from what I've read up, because then it went every 2 years, so 2009, 2011. But that's when I stopped them, because this still feels like, this episode, this series especially, as I've said before, really does sometimes, like when I'm combining and I'm in the cab and I'm thinking, wow, this was, what the view sort of must be like from inside my toy combine, like, and then but sometimes when I'm sort of playing on my other saves, and like my sort of personal save and that, and I'm doing sort of jobs and that, and I think, wow, like, it's just like playing with toys. The difference is you can see where you've been, whereas in carpets it was very difficult. So I used to have 6 pieces of little tiny bits of paper screwed up, and so I would go from one end to the other along the skirting, and then drop where I started, drop a bit of paper where the end of the plough was, say if I was ploughing, or the drill or whatever, and then do the same the other end. And then, if the carpet was plush, the markers would leave a line, so you didn't need to do that because you could see where you were. And sometimes as well, as I say, if the carpets were plush enough, you didn't need it with the ploughs, because the ploughs would leave where they'd been as well. But sometimes you needed to leave some carpets. You needed to leave 2 little bits of paper at either end, and then you'd sort of then see how straight you could push, because obviously if you didn't get to the other end in sort of level with where you dropped the other one, then you knew you'd either gone wrong on the first breed, which was unlikely because you're up against the skirting, or you'd sort of majorly gone wrong on the way back. So that was how I used to sort of measure it out and mark it out. But anyway, we'll get these headlands ploughed off, and then that'll probably be it for this episode. I've been yakking on for 44 minutes. Bored you all to tears. There's probably no one still watching. But never mind. But yeah, so it's as I say, it's been a good. Well, it's. To be fair, I sort of was quite relieved when I got a few messages from a few people saying, you should talk about your experiences. You should talk about, like your farming life and different things, because whilst your time lapsing, is great and sometimes is needed, sometimes it would be really nice to sort of hear about, you know, stories or things that happened, on the farm, because a lot of us have never worked on a real farm, probably never likely to work on a real farm, and so it's sort of kind of interesting to know what goes on. And I must admit, I do really enjoy doing these videos. I think the last one I did like this was when I was loading sugar beet, which again is another perfect job where I can sort of it's going to take an episode length to do. The same with ploughing this field. I mean, as I say, I'd sort of already done quite a bit of ploughing in here before I started the video, and it's sort of taken a video length to do it. But anyway, I think this is where I am going to leave the video, because as I say, we've ploughed a field, and I will see you in the next episode. And if you haven't done already, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. As I always say, it really does help the channel. Thank you to everyone that has. I have now hit the target comfortably now. So at the time of recording this video, I'm on 411 subscribers. So you've all done an absolutely amazing job in helping me to push up to my 400 subscribers before July 1st. We've now moved that target up to 425 by July 1st. However, that's probably going to be unlikely. So that will then expand into August the 1st then. But if we're quite close by July 1st to the 425, we will then just extend it a bit further to the 450. So we're doing it in sort of 25 blocks, really, in blocks of 25, just because it's easier for me to kind of keep a mental note of how well we're doing. And as I say, the last sort of week, or last fortnight really, it's been amazing. So many subscribers in the last fortnight. I'm really, really, really grateful, and do thank you. But anyway, all that's left for me to say is thanks ever so much for joining me on this episode. I've really enjoyed having your company, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye for now.